You know, when you walk through the financial district of a major city, you look up at those massive skyscrapers. It's just this ocean of steel, glass, and concrete stretching up into the clouds.
Yeah, and you see the logos of those untouchable mega corporations plastered right at the very top.
Exactly. You look at them, and the immediate visceral feeling you get is that they will rule the world forever. I mean, it feels completely undeniably permanent.
Well, it is the architecture of permanence, right? It's specifically designed to project absolute stability, to make you feel incredibly small by comparison. It makes the institution itself feel eternal.
Yeah, it's a physical manifestation of power. But history tells us a completely different story. History tells us that what feels permanent usually isn't. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Today, we're taking you on a journey into an ancient prophetic text, Isaiah chapter 14. And at first glance, it might seem like just a dusty historical poem about a fallen king.
Right. But if you actually look closely, it is a stunningly relevant masterclass on the anatomy of ego, the illusion of power, and exactly why people at the very top fall so spectacularly hard.
It really is. And we're going to unpack all of that for you. So let's set the stage. What exactly are we looking at in this text?
What is so compelling about this text is how methodically it strips away the illusion. To fully grasp how this applies to the power dynamics in your own life today, we have to understand the dramatic shift happening in the ancient narrative first.
Okay, lay it out for us.
It's a story of an ultimate whiplash-inducing reversal. We're looking at a system where generations of captivity turn suddenly into release. Immense suffocating pressure turns into immediate relief.
But wait, if the oppressed are suddenly finding release, what exactly is happening to the oppressor? I mean, does the text just leave the powerful king sitting comfortably on his throne while everyone else gets to go free?
Oh, not at all. In fact, the text opens with this incredible imagery of a complete inversion of the social and political order. It says, "The Lord will have mercy on Jacob, choose Israel, and set them in their own land."
Right.
And then it describes the former captives taking their former oppressors captive. So the ones who once controlled absolutely everything, they lose it overnight.
Wow. And the emotional whiplash of that shift must have been staggering. The text describes the whole earth finally being at rest and quiet, and people literally breaking forth into singing.
Yeah, it even says that nature gets in on it. The fir trees and the cedars of Lebanon are rejoicing.
The trees are rejoicing.
Yeah, the imagery used there is deeply intentional. The text says the trees are rejoicing because, as they put it, no feller has come up against us. A feller is a woodcutter.
Oh, I see. So the mechanism of their oppression was this relentless extraction.
Exactly. The king of Babylon wasn't just ruling, He was extracting. He was the woodcutter, constantly chopping down resources, both human and natural,
Yeah.
to build his empire.
Right. The text says he smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke.
But now the woodcutter is gone. The staff of the wicked is shattered. And this is a profound reminder that just because a situation has lasted a long time, and just because it is backed by overwhelming force, it doesn't mean it has actual permanence.
That makes total sense. Okay, I understand the relief on earth, but the imagery in the text takes a really sharp turn here, doesn't it? It moves from the rejoicing forests down into the underworld to witness the king of Babylon's arrival in the grave.
It really does. And to be clear, this is not a VIP welcome.
No, definitely not.
It is the ultimate demystification of power. The text says that hell, or the grave, the underworld from beneath, is moved to meet him at his coming. It literally stirs up the dead.
It stirs up the dead kings, right?
Exactly. All the chief ones of the earth, all the dead kings of the nations who preceded him, they're raised up from their thrones in the dark just to look at him.
And what are they looking for? Because the text says they ask him, "Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" I mean, it sounds like pure shock.
It is shock. The text points out that his pomp is brought down to the grave, along with the noise of his viols.
Viols being stringed instruments, right, like harps or lutes. Why does the text specifically mention his instruments going down with him?
Well, because music, the noise of the viols, was basically the soundtrack of his propaganda. It was the atmospheric noise created to project his divinity and his untouchable status.
Oh, like when a king enters a room, the music swells, the trumpets blare.
Exactly. The viols played, it was all designed to create an aura of invincibility. But in the grave, the propaganda machine is unplugged. It's totally silent.
And without the noise, what is left?
The text gives us the most grounding image possible. It says the worm is spread under him, the worms cover him.
Yikes. The ultimate equalizer. Which makes perfect sense, but honestly, it's easy to cheer when a tyrannical king gets covered in worms.
Oh, for sure. We all naturally root for the downfall of the villain.
Right, but hold on. Isn't there a danger here for anyone who actually needs to lead? Like, if a CEO or a community leader doesn't have some level of ambition, they just get crushed by the competition. Where is the line between necessary ambition and this kind of catastrophic pride?
That is the crucial distinction to make. Ambition is the desire to build something, to create value, to solve a problem.
Okay.
Pride, specifically the kind of pride described in this text, is the desire to replace reality with your own supremacy. It's the transition from wanting to do great things to believing you actually are the ultimate
Oh,
thing.
wow. That's a huge shift.
It is, and the text actually takes us inside the king's internal monologue to show us exactly how this psychological shift happens.
This is the famous passage about the fall of Lucifer, the son of the morning, right?
Yes, the text says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" The name Lucifer translates to lightbringer or shining one. So it's referring to the king of Babylon's initial brilliance and status.
But then it lists out the terrifying internal mechanism of his arrogance through these 5 I will statements.
Right, and look at the progression of those statements.
Yeah, they escalate so quickly. It's like, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mountain of the congregation. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
Psychologically, this shows us exactly how catastrophic blind spots are manufactured. When confidence inflates into unchecked arrogance, a leader stops seeing reality.
They lose the plot completely.
Completely. The king of Babylon didn't just want to rule the geopolitical landscape. He wanted to supplant God. He wanted to cross the boundary of human limitation.
It's like turning up the noise-canceling feature on your headphones to 100%. The higher you climb in your own mind, the more you tune out criticism, limitations, reality.
That's the perfect analogy. Ego isolates you.
You think you're ascending peacefully into the clouds, but really you just can't hear the fire alarms going off in your own building.
Exactly. When you believe you are like the Most High, you stop taking feedback. You surround yourself with people who only amplify your own noise of the vials.
So the gap between your perception of yourself and actual reality just widens to a critical point.
And the wider that gap gets, the more violent the eventual snap back to reality will be.
Which brings us to the moment the noise-canceling headphones are just ripped off. The foundation completely gives way and the illusion is shattered.
Right.
But what exactly does that look like in real time? The text describes the people looking at the fallen king, and their reaction isn't just fear or anger. The text says they narrowly look upon thee and consider thee. Why are they narrowly looking? Like, why are they squinting at him?
Because the cognitive dissonance is so overwhelming. They're trying to reconcile the massive, terrifying myth of the king of Babylon with the unremarkable reality of the broken man lying in front of them.
They can't believe their eyes.
Right. The text says they ask, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof?
Is this the guy? It's that moment you realize the wizard behind the curtain is just a frail old man pulling levers.
Exactly. It's the exposure of that gap between perception and reality we just talked about. People look incredibly strong, their empires look totally permanent, until the exact moment they don't.
Yeah. When the aura of invincibility is removed, all that is left is the reality of their actions.
And the reality of his actions brings up something else entirely. The fall of this king wasn't just a personal, isolated failure, was it?
No, not at all. The text is very clear that his collapse causes immense collateral damage. The ripple effects of influence are devastating here.
A shattered ego doesn't just hurt the person who holds it. It breaks the entire ecosystem around them.
Precisely. The text says he won't even be joined with the other kings in burial because he destroyed his own land and slew his own people. His arrogance consumed the very people he was supposed to lead.
And the consequences extend outward to his entire lineage and his empire. The text declares, the seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. All right, God says, he will cut off from Babylon the name, the remnant, the son, and the nephew.
And then there is this vivid image of how the system itself will be handled. The text says Babylon will be made a possession for the bittern, which are wild birds and pools of water. And God says, I will sweep it with the besom of destruction.
The besom is a broom, just for context.
Right, so a complete sweeping away. But the text doesn't just stop with Babylon being swept away. It pivots to Assyria, saying the Assyrians' yoke will be broken.
Yeah.
And then there is a very specific, almost bizarre warning to Palestina. The text says, Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent.
Quite the imagery.
I mean, what on earth is a fiery flying serpent?
Well, to understand that, we have to look at the historical and mythological context of what those words meant to the original audience. A cockatrice was a mythical beast, essentially part rooster and part serpent, and it was considered incredibly deadly and venomous. And a fiery flying serpent represents something even faster, harder to track, and way more lethal.
So it's basically a metaphor for a mutating threat.
Precisely. The warning is profound.
Yeah.
Just because one oppressive system, the rod that smote you, is broken, do not blindly celebrate.
Because something worse might be coming.
Exactly. When a massive power structure falls, it creates a vacuum. And if the root issue, the underlying corruption or pride, isn't dealt with, the system that rushes in to fill that vacuum can be much worse.
It mutates from a snake into a cockatrice, and from a cockatrice into a fiery flying serpent.
It shows us that not every failure leads to a neat recovery. Some broken systems are removed completely by the besom of destruction, while others simply spawn new, more volatile dangers.
Which honestly makes this incredibly relevant to us today, because we aren't ancient kings. We aren't managing the geopolitical fallout of Babylon.
Right.
But we are living in a world completely obsessed with image, with building our own little empires, and with navigating systems of power in our careers and our communities.
We absolutely are.
So how do we evaluate actual substance? How do we take the mechanics of this ancient text and apply them to our modern lives, especially since we want to focus on this application for the rest of our time today?
Well, that is the ultimate question we have to answer. We must distill this into hard, practical truths. The first and most critical application is that you must internalize that status is situational.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
It is not permanent. You have to actively, deliberately separate your identity from your position. If you're a CEO, a manager, a community leader, or even the head of your household, that role is something you do. It is not who you are.
Because if your entire identity is tied to the position, and the position disappears, which history tells us it eventually will, you end up like the king in the grave.
Yeah, exactly. You lose yourself completely because there was no actual substance beneath the title.
That's a sobering thought. What's the second practical takeaway?
The second application is about self-awareness. Don't wait for a total collapse to gain clarity. Remember when the king's illusion was shattered and everyone squinted and saw him for what he truly was?
The wizard behind the curtain moment.
Right. You don't have to wait for a crisis to evaluate your own life. Watch your internal narrative. When you catch yourself turning up those noise-canceling headphones, when you start thinking in those absolute, I will elevate myself terms, you have to force yourself to take them off.
Listen to the feedback. Look at reality.
Exactly.
I think there's a profound spiritual lesson here that really anchors all of this. Because the chapter doesn't just end with the destruction of Babylon or the warning about the flying serpent.
No, it doesn't.
It ends with a question about what one should answer the messengers of the nation. And the answer the text provides is that the Lord hath founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it.
That is the ultimate striking contrast of the entire text. The king of Babylon spent his life trying to build his own foundation. He tried to ascend to heaven by his own power, using his own I will statements.
But it was entirely an illusion.
Yes, true stability, the only actual permanence, is found in the foundation that God has laid.
Which completely shifts how we view trust.
Right.
I mean, if human control is always limited, if the greatest earthly kings with their unimaginable wealth and military might are eventually brought down to the pit and covered in worms,
Right.
then our trust simply cannot be in our own ability to ascend. It can't be in our resumes, our bank accounts, or how many followers we have.
And this is where the application deeply challenges us. We have to maintain humility about our actual level of control.
Yeah.
You're not as in control as you think you are. And frankly, neither is anyone else.
Yeah.
Now, if your entire trust is in your own ability to manage your image, that realization is terrifying.
Yeah.
But if your trust is in the foundation God has laid, it's actually the most liberating truth you can internalize.
It is liberating, because if we are honest with ourselves, we all secretly want to be the king of our own little Babylon.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to micromanage our careers. We want to curate our family's public image so everyone thinks we have it all together. We want to control exactly how the world perceives us.
It's exhausting.
It really is. But isn't it an incredible relief to realize we aren't actually carrying the weight of the world? That God's purpose for the whole earth, as the text says, is the hand stretched out that cannot be turned back.
It is the very definition of freedom. When you finally let go of the frantic, exhausting need to control your image and maintain a manufactured status, you can actually rest.
You don't have to carry the heavy burden of the I will mindset.
Exactly. You can trust that God's overarching purpose is secure. You can stop building on sand and start aligning yourself with true substance.
Well, this has been a heavy but incredibly eye-opening exploration of Isaiah 14.
Yeah, to synthesize the mechanics of what we've unpacked today, this was never just a history lesson about a fallen king. It is a mirror.
A mirror for us.
Right. It shows us how pride systematically creates blind spots and distorts our perception of reality. It shows us the exact mechanism of how reality violently corrects that illusion. And most importantly, it shows us why true safety is never found in the temporary status we build for ourselves, but in humility and trusting God's ultimate foundation.
We started today by talking about those massive skyscrapers, those corporate logos that look so untouchable and permanent. We've seen how quickly the illusion of power can collapse, whether it's an ancient empire or a modern ego.
Absolutely.
But as we wrap up, consider this entirely different angle for you to mull over. What if the most dangerous Babylon in your life isn't the corporation you work for, but the digital algorithm you interact with every single day?
Oh, wow. That's a thought.
We carry devices in our pockets with systems designed entirely around feeding us an illusion of our own infinite importance. They curate the world to match our preferences, amplifying our own I will statements, and subtly tuning out reality.
It's an architecture of ego built right into our daily habits.
It really is something to deeply consider the next time you open your feed. Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's been a fascinating text to unpack with you. So as you go back to your day and look at the systems and structures around you, how will you apply this information in your life?